To another episode of the Plant Based Morning Show, a morning show for plant based people. That's how to describe it. We're here every morning, 11 a.m., and this one is no different. As usual, I will wait for Doug to join in. The good news is I am well rested today. The past two episodes, I have been anything but well rested, but today I'm feeling good. And we got a good show. We got some good articles lined up. Some of them not even related at all to plant based stuff, which is fun every now and then when that happens. So we will get into those. All right. Doug should be joining us in any second. Silent. There he is. Doug, how's it going?
Good. Good morning. It's going well. It's going great, Matt. And I heard at the beginning that you were well rested. So
Yeah, I mean the puppies woke me up at 6, but I went to bed at a decent hour and slept through the night, and it was all good. Not surprising with how terrible the night before was. I always surest way to have a good sleep for me is have a terrible sleep the night before, and that's what I did.
what's the latest on the puppies? Are you keeping them or what's?
No, we're not keeping them. They're worsening by the day. They're just their behavior's completely out of hand. One of them, they're getting shots today. Their second round of shots or whatever. I don't know the details. They're going to the vet as we speak. They're at the vet, and after that, they will be eligible for adoption. And one has already been placed in a home, so there will be a handoff happening, and that's the brown one. The other one will still be here, and maybe it'll be a little better when we have just one. But man, it's been a nightmare. We've cleaned up pee off our nice new house hardwood floor. I would say 150 times. It's just they just go 7-8 times a day. Just they also go outside. It's like they sort of know, but they just don't care enough to go over there when they have to. So whatever, and it's fun. But I'll never have 2 puppies again. It's too much. One maybe, two no way.
Okay, well now you know.
Yeah, now I know.
Now you know.
So what else, Doug? Anything else before we jump into some fun stuff today? Anything going on in your world, cooking, food-wise, burritos, fajitas, tacos, any new wrapped up foods?
I had quesadillas last night, so kind of.
I can't believe I forgot that one. Left that off.
Yeah.
The other food in between tortillas that...
we may have refried black beans and a can.
We have. Well, we've talked about that. I don't think on here, but maybe. Yeah.
And because you're the one who told me that you taught me that quesadillas with refried beans, it acts like the binder with the cheese, and it's really quite good.
Right.
And so we started using the black refried beans, and it's delicious. It's so good.
Just a better flavor profile.
The black. I don't know. I mean, I don't mind a pinto bean, refried bean, but yeah, I kind of like this one better.
It's a black. Good. All right. Good for you. Mm-hmm. Glad to hear that. Man, you have like basically a Mexican diet in your house. Is that accurate, or is it just played up for the morning show?
Maybe a Tex-Mex diet, like an American Mexican diet.
Like, is that more than just a joke for this show? Is that like really 80% of your guys' food is Tex-Mex?
Oh no, definitely not 80%. No, but there's probably 2 Mexican meals a week. Like either some sort of like burrito bowl or burritos, or then quesadillas / tacos. So probably doing that twice a week, and then corn chips, 4 or 5 days a week. So
right. I'm good. I mean, there's a lot of whole foods in that type of diet. Obviously, the true, the American, the Tex-Mex, the true Tex-Mex diet, not very healthy at all. Tons of bad stuff. I think that actually is one of like the worst diets as far as health goes. I think I read that somewhere. But yeah, a plant-based version of that. And honestly, I think closer to an actual Mexican diet, probably, where you're not smothering things in cheese.
Yeah,
I think they're super healthy. So
I mean, honestly, it is funny. Honestly, it is pretty healthy. Aside from maybe the corn chips, like it's brown rice, it's beans, it's a lot of vegetables, a lot of tomatoes and salsa, and just lettuce, a lot of greens in there. Yesterday, quesadillas had a bunch of spinach in there, so I mean, it's all pretty healthy.
Yeah, good for you. Only food news I have is Aaron last night made some stuff. There's an underrated cookbook. Maybe not underrated, just people don't know it. America's Test Kitchen has a book called, I think it's Vegan for Everyone. It could be Vegan for Everybody. I'll look that up.
That's the NPR thing, right? Or New York Times? NPR?
America's Test Kitchen.
Yeah. But where does that
is that related to one of those? I don't know.
I think so.
I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, so it's a great book. I mean, it's some of the recipes are involved. They take a little more work than others, but it's made by cooks or chefs, people who really value good food. Uh, and it's not like a single Instagram influencer makes their cookbook, which is fine because that Carly,
Yep.
right? Love her book. It's just different. It's just they've paid so much attention to flavor profiles and tested things a million ways. So it's just different than like a typical, vegan cookbook that you see. And as a result, really good, dependable stuff. So we made a Caesar salad. Well, not we. Aaron made a Caesar salad from there and banh mi sandwiches. And Doug, I remember we actually made these banh mi sandwiches for you one time, you and your family, when we went to the brewery.
Highland?
We went to Highland, yep, and we brought a
Yeah, I
picnic
remember that. They're
of
delicious.
banh mi tofu sandwiches. Yeah,
Mhm.
so very good, dependable. Like I said, takes some work, but it's a great book. And Jody agrees, and so does Mr. Jeffrey. Look at this. I hit a big one that our regulars know and love. And Lady Seabeth says it's a PBS thing, Doug. That's
Okay. All right.
good. Okay, and then JoJo says, I'm loving the compliment vitamins. I feel so good. Good. That's a good reminder to us, the host, to mention that the show is presented by Compliment. We often forget to say that, but we certainly should. Yeah, and if you're new, we have a podcast. It's the Plant-Based Morning Show. You can always join us here, 11 a.m. Eastern. Every now and then we'll switch the time around, but you can join us here wherever you're watching it. Instagram Live is like the main place we do it, but it's also streamed on other channels if you're at those. But we also have a podcast, The Plant-Based Morning Show. You can go there, any podcast place you want, and get this show. Subscribe. You get a daily episode. And I must say, Doug, the episodes are getting better pretty much each time we do them. There's the odd one now and then. It's a little weird. But in general, they're better than they used to be.
Oh, I definitely think they're better than they used to be. and I'm glad people are sticking around. I'm glad the show's growing. Yeah, I mean, we just have so much fun with it. And it's definitely a different type of style for us and for probably the rest of the plant-based world. So it's good. But
yep. All right, good. Well, with that, then let's dive in. First one, totally not plant-based related, but it's a subject that falls under the domain of our conversations, Doug. It's from TheVerge.com, and the headline is "Kids who play video games score higher on brain function tests." So those who aren't long-time No Meat Athlete Radio fans won't know that we discussed esports at some length on that show for a couple months in a row. I don't know why. We just got fascinated by the idea that they were hosting their esports draft in Madison Square Garden and all this other crazy stuff, and these stats that appear that esports were bigger than regular sports. So anyway, we got into a bunch of stuff about whether that was healthy and is that a bad thing that like maybe one day the highest level sports will be played digitally than physically. So lots of stuff. This study though, kind of interesting. They're careful to point out it's not a causation. They're not saying that the video games caused these improvements that they noticed, but there were improvements. And if I can pull those up in front of me, they were that the gamers performed. Kids who played the games for 3 or more hours per day were faster and more accurate at tasks requiring impulse control and memorization than kids who didn't play them at all. And then neuroimaging also showed that the game playing kids had more activity in areas of the brain associated with attention and memory. And then later, they go on to say that, crucially, the mental health of these kids was not any worse off, however they evaluated that, not worse off than the non-gamers. I thought about that one a little bit and thought it could be that when you're not gaming, you're on, TikTok or something, just destroying your mental health.
Right.
And so therefore the gamers are shielded at least for a few hours from that. I don't even know if they are though, because they stream on Twitch like we do.
Yeah, right.
And they're doing social media probably while they're doing it. Mm-hmm. But somehow it seems a little healthy, right? If you're playing a game, you're talking to people while you do it, just feels somewhat different than posting pictures of selfies and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
and responding to stuff.
I guess depends on how abusive the people you're playing with are. But
true, yeah. I mean, I've played in my FIFA days. I went through emotional ups and downs. Like it was the angriest I got at anything in my adult life. Like I don't really get angry at things, but when someone would beat me in a whatever rivals match at the last minute, then they would taunt and they'd keep their whole goal celebration running and not press the buttons to skip it, which would be a nice thing to do. I'd go ballistic. I mean, I hated it. So certainly there can be some mental health challenges with games, but these kids not suffering them. So I like to hear this. I like
not suffering any worse than anyone else. Is the key thing.
That is a good point. Yeah, I like this. I don't like when people get, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it. But I don't like when people get stuck in their old ways and just assume that screen time must be a bad thing. And like, it's terrible, right? Because the kids all have screens now. We didn't have that when we were growing up. therefore screen time is a bad thing and they should be outside playing baseball or whatever. I don't like that kind of attitude. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure I have it in some things accidentally, but I like when we find things that kind of fly in the face of that, and they say, "Hey, maybe this is okay. That the world is headed in this very different way. Of course, we have some challenges as a result. We got to adjust, but I don't hate this."
Well, so I don't hate it either, and I think these studies are important, right? To just kind of show whether something is negatively impacting your mental brain function or something like that. I mean, or if there is some correlation between high brain function and something like video games. But this is looking in a silo, right? So if you looked at a bunch of kids who did 3 hours of art every day, like I'm sure that they would excel in some other sort of something else, and it's not looking at whether the kids who play for 3 or 4 hours a day tend to be overweight or less healthy in some other way. So I think that like this is good and it's and it's important. It kind of makes a lot of sense, right? Like if all you're doing is memory and rapid brain function. So if your brain is naturally good at that, then you're probably going to be attracted to a game where you're doing that for a long time. And it's probably working that muscle a little bit and you're getting better and better, maybe. But, I think that while these studies are important, they're silo studies and not looking at like the overall health of kids who are doing this, and also I think it shouldn't disqualify someone who's doing something else for 3 hours a day, because I think that they're probably excelling in other ways.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If anything comes out of this to me, it's that video games don't automatically rot every part of our brain. It's like we see that they can do some good things, just like other activities probably do some good things, certainly do some good things to different parts of the brain. Video games have their thing too. The kids have good mental health. So I don't know. I mean, like, I think this is not that big of a deal, but I think it's still interesting and good to see, especially since, we're headed to this metaverse world, which another thing that we talked about a little bit at length on No Meat Athlete Radio. So it's good to see a little that maybe it's not quite as bad as people are assuming it all is.
Yep.
Who knows? We've got the multi-streamer. We've got some, let's see. Hello from New York. This is Lauren Warren Thompson. Hello from New York. Ironman athlete here. Welcome, Lauren, to our show. Awesome. Awakening to vacuity says not vegan, but looking toward transitioning to vegan. A lot of people on YouTube. That seems to be our big multi-stream hit.
Interesting.
And then 18sex.xyz says find love on the best dating site. And I have no idea how to kick people out of that. We're not even in YouTube, so I don't keep doing that. 18sexxyz.
All right.
Okay. Moving on.
Well, we got some morning show news.
This is drama about another morning show. We like to talk about the other plant-based news outlets and compare ourselves to them and paint ourselves in a favorable light. We don't really do that with other morning shows, but perhaps we should, and perhaps we're in that category now that we need to. Vegan Society, this is the Vegan Society, issues formal complaint to ITV, which I found out is a British TV network, after this morning, capitalized this morning, that's the name of the show, criticizes, spelled with an S, not a Z, the environmental impact of plant milk. So it's British show this morning. Seems like famous hosts Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield. They were provided with dairy, lactose-free, and plant milks, including soy, almond milk, hazelnut, oat, coconut, pea, and potato. All these different plant milks. And as they sampled them, the journalist Alice Beer listed the benefits and environmental drawbacks associated with each drink. So they went through all these things, and among the criticisms, the almond and the soy milk, they talked about water use and deforestation. And it is known that these things do have some environmental impacts. We talked about that yesterday. Some of the environmental impacts of these crops, and certain ones are worse than others. But they neglected to mention the other point, which would be that dairy on its own also has its own environmental benefit or problems. Probably worse than many of these. I don't actually know if it's worse than these, but because of the sheer volume of it that is consumed, I think it probably is. And then they sort of said that people should be careful. The teenagers especially should be careful with these plant milks because they don't provide some key nutrients that might be needed or that are needed. And so that's what the Vegan Society is calling irresponsible. I don't know quite where I stand on this. Like, I didn't see the segment. It doesn't sound like dairy, lactose free, and plant. So I think they mean they were dairy. I don't think they had dairy ones up here and tasted those also, and then talked about the environmental drawbacks of those. I think it's just that they tasted a bunch of vegan drinks, said how some of them were bad for the environment, and didn't say, oh, by the way, regular dairy is also bad for the environment. I don't know if I have a problem with that.
I read it as they did have dairy. They had dairy, they had lactose free, and they had plant milks.
What would be the point of giving people dairy though? Like just for the little AB things, so they
Yeah,
can
a little
compare
taste
to
test.
the
Is
default?
this milk? Yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't know. I mean, so the whole premise of this segment is kind of flawed in my opinion. I mean, are people really drinking potato milk and like they would
Right,
drink
right.
a cup of dairy milk? I don't know. I mean, you're talking about putting these things in your lattes and your cereals and your things like that, not necessarily feeding them your kids and in a replacement of dairy milk. But
Yeah, right. I'm with you. I mean, it's kind of silly, but that's what you do if you want to get some ratings. You want to do a big taste test. You get all the possible ones you can. So anyway, if they tasted the milk in here, the regular dairy milk, and they didn't point out any environmental issues with that, then I have a problem with it. Then I think this is not fair that they did point out environmental issues with the non-dairy ones. Uh, because the huge, to me, overwhelming thing is that in general these plant non-dairy milks are going to be better for the environment than the dairy milk
yeah,
is. So to
right.
neglect that would be wrong. If they weren't even talking about dairy and you're just talking about different types of plant milk, and you point out that some of them are worse than others, and I don't know if it's necessarily worse than regular dairy, but worse than others because of deforestation issues, I don't think there's an obligation for them to then point out how bad dairy is.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's probably not the point of the show. They wanted to talk about the different plant milks. So I don't know. I'm not.
I think that this just highlights that we're doing the right thing by calling out both sides all the time. I mean, we call out the vegan community all the time, and
We do.
and this is what they should have done here. I mean, it is kind of weird and irresponsible, in my opinion, that they wouldn't do it. Whether it's wrong, I don't know, but certainly they should. If they're bringing up environmental issues and talking about milk, they should talk about all levels of milk.
Yeah.
We got Soya replied to our story here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just got a notification.
Okay.
I don't know how they got tagged, but maybe they're watching.
They're not in the thing
So,
then. Maybe. Okay. Good.
um,
So I do actually have a problem with the idea that whoever Alice is said children and teenagers should not replace dairy milk with plant milks because they will miss out on essential nutrients.
mm,
I mean that's stupid to me. Like it. I think people don't realize this in a mainstream sense, but like every vegan has heard this a billion times. Like it is not natural for us to take the milk from another species and drink the milk that was made for a baby cow, and we're just going to assume that those are essential nutrients for humans to have, for children and teenagers. We must keep having this cow's milk because it is essential to our health. I mean, it's just a crazy idea that stuff is essential. I'm not saying the things in there aren't essential, but there are other ways to get them. And for
right.
hundreds of thousands of years, we didn't drink cow's milk, in any regular fashion. We just drank mother human's milk for a little while and then stopped. So it's crazy to me that kind of claim gets made, but I'm not surprised that it does. Of course it does. That's the mainstream belief, and that's a lot of marketing dollars have gone into making sure it stays that way.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so we agree irresponsible in that way, but I don't know about the environmental thing. All right, plant-based Lucy says the link to cancer with dairy is real. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of interesting studies say that it is. I actually have never looked that deeply to know how real it is. Certainly, there are criticisms of some of the China study things, which I think are the big ones that point that out. Teach Bike Right says, as a descendant of Irish immigrants who lives in Ohio or Idaho, so this is as potato rich history as you could get. I've never heard of potato milk, and I am intrigued. So
I haven't either.
No, I don't. I don't think I have either. When I saw it, I wasn't alarmed by it, but I think that's a good point. But
if you Google it, the first headline that comes up is "Making homemade potato milk is simple." So there you go.
so it doesn't necessarily mean we should make it.
No, but apparently it's simple.
Okay. All right. Next one. This is a quick one. Omni vegan meats are now available at Walmart, or are coming available at Walmart. The interesting thing about Omni, it's a brand that I've heard of before. I'm pretty sure I've heard of them because of their partnerships with different things. Apparently, they did a Starbucks stint with some crab cakes. I think we must have talked about them before in some sort of vegan seafood thing or something. I don't know. Pretty sure that's what it was. I think it was vegan seafood. Anyway, they have now an Omni pot sticker, an Omni spring roll. Omni crab cake style, and Omni luncheon. Again, people with the luncheon meats and marketing it as such. I don't understand it. I had never heard of luncheon meats other than what I assume luncheon meats would be like the slice, just you slice up meat like I don't know what's the name, Doug, for the deli meats. I thought it was deli meats
Yeah.
that you would have at a luncheon, right? Like a little sandwich spread, and there'd be these deli meats there. But twice now in the history of this,
essentially vegan spam.
yeah, right. And that's what they are. It comes in a can. It looks like a big block, and but now twice in this show, two different brands have rolled out plant-based luncheon meats, and they're marketing them as such. It does not make sense to me why we're calling it that now, and why is anyone making vegan spam? But whatever, it's happening. So I could get into some pot stickers. I'm not that excited about this, but if I'm going to Walmart to pick up some Beyond Steak tips, then I wouldn't mind grabbing some pot stickers.
Yeah, some spring rolls, the crab cakes. I'd be up for that. This is big to me, and I'll tell you why. And that is because, I'm just gonna leave it there. Actually, I'm not gonna. I don't know anything about the Omni products. I've never had one. Can't speak to the quality, but I did a little research because I had heard that Walmart is the the largest grocery store.
Oh, okay.
And I was looking at market share of different grocery stores. And this is Q1 of 2002. Walmart had 21.3% of the market share of groceries. The next largest was Kroger at 10%. So it has twice as much as the second biggest grocery store. And then, you look at things like Whole Foods is 1.3%, Trader Joe's 1.2%. So if you're thinking about getting your products into grocery stores, Walmart is the place to do it. And I don't know if obviously there's different people who go to Whole Foods than go to Walmart, which I would imagine is a budget grocery store. I've never actually done grocery shopping there since maybe I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't know if plant meats are as popular there. That's making huge assumptions that are probably inappropriate. But I think that if you want to get into a grocery store, you got to get into Walmart. It seems like that's the place to do it. So I think this is big.
Yeah, good point. I did not realize that they were that big of a player in the grocery market. I thought it was big, just like the Beyond Steak thing, big because, like you kind of said, I think of a different type of customer there than the one who's typically exposing themselves to plant-based meat offerings. And I think it's a good thing to make that available and see how it works there. So the fact that it's also with how big Walmart is as a supermarket, that's a pretty big deal. I know Target's got some vegan stuff. I had noticed. I think they have Miyoko's things there, which always I found surprising. So yeah, doubly surprising to me that Walmart would be doing this much with the vegan stuff.
Yeah,
but
so just in context, Target is 2.8% of the market share instead of 21%. So it's
like a McDonald's
tiny.
versus Burger King thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
interesting. Good. All right. Well, that is significant. Perhaps I'll go shop at a Walmart. I don't think I've done that either. I may have picked up some bananas or something once in one and thought it was weird, but
I think what's part of what's big about Walmart is, the prices for sure. I'm sure of it, but there are Walmarts everywhere, and in places sometimes there aren't good grocery stores, and so that is the best place to get your groceries, whether you're going for cheap groceries or not, and so I think again they have put themselves in places where there probably isn't a lot of grocery store selection, and in some communities, and so that's why it's important to have these healthy foods in Walmart as well. If you can call this a healthy food, plant-based food.
Right. Yeah, who knows? Some of these things maybe. I don't think all of them, but whatever. That's how it is. Plant-based meats, we don't know if they're healthy. They're healthy to some people's diets, and others they're not. It just depends what your philosophy is. All right, moving on. By the way, more potato things. Someone mentioned potato vodka. SJ Cookie, potato vodka is a thing. They make some in Prince Edward Island. And then someone's asking if Tom Brady would drink it. I thought vodka was potatoes. I thought that was how you make vodka, is you ferment potatoes. Am I wrong? Or distill things? I don't know. I just thought potato was the how you make vodka.
I think there's two different types of vodka.
Okay. What are they? Tell us.
I don't know, but oh man, Okay, so like Russian vodka, I think is potato vodka, and then there is oh man, oh, what is the other one?
You know what? It's not that important.
It is
Okay. We'll
fruit
move on.
vodka, grain vodka, grain vodka,
Grain vodka. Okay. There we go. Mr. Jeffrey.
potato and grain. Yeah, Mr. Jeffrey knows.
And he adds, Walmart seems to be making a push to have stranger and stranger plant-based options. I don't know of any other options, but this is a little strange to me. This does not seem like the way to introduce a mainstream customer to plant-based things. But what do I know? I mean, really, they probably know a lot more than we do about what's going to work and what isn't. So good for them. Okay, getting to the real stuff now. Well, almost. Kraft. I mean, this actually is a segue into the real stuff. Veg News reports Kraft American cheese singles are finally getting a vegan makeover courtesy of Notco. And Notco is this partnership thing called the Heinz Kraft Not Company. No, Heinz Kraft has partnered with the Not Company, and there's this company now called Kraft Heinz Not Company. I didn't even know that Kraft and Heinz were together, but it sounds like they are. So these are massive. These are staples. These are classic. Many of them sort of retro foods, and apparently they are making a bunch of stuff, including mac and cheese, in vegan fashion. And like the Kraft mac and cheese, right? It's a classic box. So to see that with a vegan sticker on it or whatever vegan bottom of it is interesting. And they've done the Philadelphia cream cheese as well. I saw that a couple days ago. So it's kind of neat. This is the type of cheese product or vegan cheese product that I swore off a couple weeks ago on this show.
Right.
And said I was banning it from my house. The new Kraft vegan slices were made with water, coconut oil, modified cornstarch, and chickpea protein as main ingredients. Like Daya or Daya and like Follow Your Heart, like all the vegan cheese shreds, it's just a bunch of junk that like I just don't want at all. So like there's no redeeming health quality about this. At least with the plant-based meats, we can say, well, it's a good protein source or something, and we care. This is not even that. It's just junky stuff. So I'm not interested at all in these things anymore. Like I said, I like the artisan vegan cheeses, but I don't. They're just not that good. Like it's not. I don't think the Daya or the Chow shred. They don't really taste like cheese. They don't add anything. They're gross when they melt and pile up. So I'm not interested.
Here's why I'm interested.
Okay.
I'm interested because I just can't imagine that Kraft is going to come out with something that tastes like some of those other cheeses. That's just like bland, starchy. I mean, it feels like if they're going to put out a Kraft singles, vegan Kraft singles, it's going to melt the same way a non or a dairy Kraft singles is going to melt. It's going to feel a little bit different than some of the other ones available. So, I mean, they have the money, they have the infrastructure to put something out that's a total game changer. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be what they do. So I'm excited to try this. I cannot imagine buying it very often, but you know what? I've made grilled cheese for my kids a few times before and they love it. So, like vegan grilled cheese. And so if there was a cheese that actually tasted good, then I would be all about it.
Yes. So I actually agree with you there. Mr. Jeffrey says their sole goal is flavor. The not milk tastes eerily like real milk. And I'm fine with that. If this, like you said, Doug, if this actually tasted good, then I don't care that much that it's total junk food. And now and then in the appropriate context, it would be great to have something that tastes good that is a lot like cheese. And the Miyoko's cheese does a good job of being that in some context. So I'm fine with that. The problem I've had is that these things don't, by and large, taste good. So maybe this one will, like you said. This is a big company. This is a serious attempt. But until I get one where I think this is delicious, then I'm not sold. The Whole Health Experience says, is there a mac and cheese recipe in your cookbook? I'm pretty sure there is. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure there is. We've got a vegan queso sort of thing in the first No Meat Athlete book, which certainly would work on macaroni and cheese. But I'm pretty sure there's mac and cheese in No Meat Athlete cookbook. Also, Doug, I have to call out.
And it's like, I think it's your mac and chard recipe or a variation of that.
Well, mac and chard is not mine, but maybe Stephanie varied it in that book. Mac and chard was Robin Robertson's from 1,000 Vegan Recipes.
I've made that many times, and it is absolutely delicious. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Oggi Foods, OGGI, Italian word. I think it means today. They are here, or they were here at least. They popped in. They make pizzas, and they put Beyond Meat on them, and they're really delicious. And when we were living in the apartment last year, they served me many times in a pinch. They had this exact type of cheese that I'm railing against. But like I said, in the right context, a tiny little bit of it is a good thing. It can make pizza seem like pizza.
Right.
Still not a fan of the current offerings of the shredded cheeses for pizzas, but these OG things, the which one was it? The Siciliana, which I guess maybe would be Siciliana. I don't know, but Sicilian style thing, cauliflower crust, delicious. And Doug, I talked to you about cauliflower pizza crust as when inspired by this on No Meat Athlete Radio, and you poo-pooed it. You said that can't be good. It's going to taste like cauliflower. And I didn't challenge you to try theirs, but you should, because it really is good.
Challenge accepted. Let's do it.
All right, good. Send us some OG Foods, and then we'll do the challenge.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So the segue that I mentioned is, if you look at the picture at the top of the Veg News article, I realize not everyone has this in front of them, but you see a Kraft Singles pack, the original, the classic one, and the description of it says Kraft Singles American, and then it says pasteurized prepared cheese product. And remember, when we were kids, there was cheese food, these slices were called, and I don't know if cheese product is different than that or if it's just the same thing, and it's the new word for it, but that is from a food labeling legislation issue. Back early 20th century, there was discussions, and there was the idea that we had to call food what it was. So you couldn't call these things that were not cheese. You couldn't call them cheese, not because they were vegan, because these weren't vegan versions. They used some milk for sure. But what they were making was so far from actual cheese that it was decided they could not call this cheese. They had to call it cheese food. The interesting thing, though, is that the word cheese still appeared on there, right? It was just now cheese food.
Right.
But I believe, based on what I now understand about the vegan situation, is that a reasonable customer, you can't expect a reasonable customer to read one word on the label and ignore all the other ones. So a few weeks ago, I was saying I kind of agreed with these especially French, food industry people, meat industry people, believe it or not, who were trying to protect the name burger and sausage. They didn't want these things to be, you couldn't put this on packaging. And I said, you know what? That's kind of a good point. It could trick a customer into thinking that they're getting, burger's a different kind of case, but a sausage, to me, it's just, you think a sausage includes meat in it. And if you bought something and it turned out it didn't, you would feel sort of tricked. And that seems like kind of unfair competition. And I think, these perhaps they should have a right to protect their product, even if I don't agree with what their product is and I would never eat it. However, there's a history of stuff. And by the way, this is from a Veg News article that is titled, "Are Vegan Burgers Confusing Anyone? Meat Labeling Laws Are Under Scrutiny Again." And we talked last week about this happening. Redefined Meat is putting out these, I think they're the 3D printed whole cut steaks. Yes, they are.
Yep.
And they're in these French restaurants. And there's all this controversy about whether this stuff, should be allowed to be called tenderloin or steak or whatever they're calling it there. There's some legislation that disallows it. But it was unknown whether or not it applied to restaurants or whether it was just for packaged goods or what. So that's been in the news recently. But Veg News' article talks a little bit about some of the history. And apparently, there was, in 2020, an empirical study published in the Journal of Animal and Environmental Law using descriptors like burger, beef, and butter in conjunction with vegan and plant-based. And what they determined from that was that these things are not confusing anybody, that people completely understand what they are buying when they see the words beef, butter on a label. As long as they also see vegan and plant-based, no one's confused. And apparently there's a lot of legislation going, the Miyoko's decision, which happened in 2021, a Tofurky one in 2019, other was even a few years before that, a Trader Joe's one with soy milk. And judges have typically ruled that using these names on packages is okay, as long as you're also including words that describe that this is vegan or this does not have the actual meat or whatever. So I'm thinking I might reverse my stance on this, right?
Wow.
I thought,
how big of you?
If the data shows that people are not confused by these terms, as long as there's appropriate, explanation, then I'm good with it. I don't have a reason to side with the meat industry. I just wanted to stand up for the customer. But if they're not confused, I'm good with it.
Jonathan makes a good point here. It's like being confused by peanut butter.
And I'm sure there have been dairy people who have had an issue with that before, or at least talked to their lawyers about it, and tried to get butter not used on apple butters or peanut butters or anything. But obviously that didn't work. So yeah. I don't know. I think this is an interesting topic, and we keep revisiting it. There's not really that much news yet. I will be interested when there actually is news about what's happening in France. But I just wanted to call out that, and I think it's a nice bit of insight, a little bit of nuance to the case, uh, and to demonstrate that I'm capable of changing my mind. I can read something and I can change.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I mean my mind hasn't really changed here. I think it. You think of words like jerky or sausage or whatever, and as long as there is plant based in there or vegan in there, or mushroom jerky, I mean, as long as it properly describes what you're getting, I think
Hmm.
that having those words that are super familiar, is just a good way to put in context what you're actually getting, right? Because if it was just dried mushrooms, then you wouldn't know that that was mushroom jerky, right?
Right.
Uh,
But at the same time, someone who's just like a jerky, who's into jerky, and
mhm.
they don't read the internet, they don't watch the plant based morning show, they see mushroom jerky. Maybe they just think these people are making the jerky that I know and love, and they're also putting some mushrooms in there. It's like mushroom flavored version of jerky.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. That seems possible. And I also wonder, does everyone know when they see a vegan, clearly marked vegan on a label? Do enough people know that what that even means? That means this sausage is not the sausage you were expecting because there's a little vegan green thing at the bottom
Yeah.
and it's clear enough there. But does that like if I see kosher or halal or parev or whatever it is on my, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I really don't know how to pronounce that word. Uh, I don't know what that means, So I don't think about those, but I know what vegan means, so I care about that one. But if I'm in the camp who doesn't care about vegan and doesn't care about any of these different diets different than mine, maybe I would still think this is what I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, words like sausage, burger, jerky, these are, there's different types of all those things, right? We talked about this
Yeah.
before, but like
Yep.
there's beef sausage, there's pork sausage, there's turkey sausage, right? So when you see that word, you don't really know what you're going to get. Like
Hmm.
what the case, it's going to have a casing and it's going to be round probably or something like that, but you don't really know what product you're getting. So to have a vegan sausage in front of it, uh, that's just a way to say turkey sausage or something like that. It does get a little gray to me when you talk about like beef tips, like vegan beef tips. Like what does that mean, right? Because beef tips is an actual cut of an actual animal. Beef
Right.
is a
Yeah.
thing, right? So that
Right.
that is way more specific to me than sausage and even milk. Like what is milk really? Like there's all kinds of different types of milk you can have from different animals. There's obviously all the plant milks,
Hmm.
like or
Yeah.
cheese. Like all these things are just more broad terms. It
That's
does
right.
get a little
Good
dicey
point.
to me when you start getting specific, like crab meat, like a crab cake. It's not actually a crab cake. It's a
Right.
it's a
Right.
it's something that looks or tastes like a crab cake.
Yeah. And also, I mean, milk is kind of an iffy one to me because it comes from a lot of animals, not just one. But it's the original name comes from. I mean, I think comes from what comes from an animal. We're naming a
Sure.
plant thing after that. Um, the same, I guess, could be for like these words like tenderloin. I mentioned that one earlier. That's in the news as one of these controversial things. I think this is in the France situation. Um, that is, you assume that comes from an animal when you hear it, right? Because plants don't have tenderloin parts.
Hmm.
Uh, so that one, I don't know. I can get how you want that one. How you say that word should be protected, and then if you add vegan to it, like I said, I just don't know if that means enough to enough people to make it clear this is not a tenderloin. This is something that is a lot shaped like it and tastes like it, but it's not that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because what else would you call it, right? I mean, uh,
But yeah, right. I mean, right. I think adding something is the way to do it. Plant tenderloin or meatless tenderloin or whatever. Like those descriptive
mhm.
words, they do help. And also a good point in this article. I think it was in this article and also the one that they referred to. When they said when you try to start calling it by other names, it actually becomes more confusing. So
Yeah.
let me see
Right.
if I
I
can find
believe
some
that.
examples they had. Like almond beverage was one of them.
Right.
I wish I had these right in front of me.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is like, what is an almond beverage?
Right.
What is like dried mushrooms? I mean, like that could be so many different things, and I wouldn't immediately associate it with jerky or with milk or something like that. And so I think that having that tenderloin in there or beef tip in there provides enough context to where you actually know what you're going to get, even though as long as there's vegan in there or plant based or the type of food that it comes from, the type of plant that it comes from.
Yeah. I did find the other examples: coconut liquid or veggie tube. I guess these have been used before
Yeah, what's a
as,
veggie
as
tube?
alternative names, and it's like, yeah, that's more confusing. So if this is about the consumer understanding what they're buying,
Yeah.
then like these names we're discussing are probably better than these crazy things that have people have no reference for what that is.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's about just protecting the consumer though. It's also about protecting the producer who like that's why you can't call your stuff Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. You can write the word Parmesan now, but if it's not in this certain region of Italy, you can't call it Parmigiano Reggiano. You can't have Bordeaux wine. You can't have champagne that's not from those areas. So like there's also protecting the producer. And when we get into that stuff with these meat questions, I don't know. I do feel like as much as I hate the producers, I don't feel that means they're not entitled to legal protection of what they're making.
Yeah, but no one's calling it an Angus beef, vegan Angus
that's
beef,
true.
right? You know?
Yeah, right, sure. Not like that specifically, and that's a good point. But in this broad sense, are they entitled to that name? It appears not. Judges are saying no, which I guess we could go up back and forth all day about different arguments. But anyway, this is fine. I think these seem like logical conclusions that they have largely come to so far, and I will continue to follow this one as we learn more.
And I'm gonna start working on a vegan Angus beef and
Yeah, okay.
see how that turns out.
I saw there was a Texas Pete comment earlier.
I know. You know what? You know what has made me so happy today? I've been watching all these comments come in. There's a lot of like kind of inside jokes happening here.
Oh yeah, do we have like regulars
Tom
who
Brady,
are like a club? Yeah,
Tom Brady,
Wow.
Texas Pete. Some corn chip comments the other day. I don't know. It just feels like there's people who are watching enough to get some sort of like insider perspective. I don't know. I'm into it. So keep those coming.
And DL Chet says, I mean, you'll see Wagyu style plant based strips.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's facetious or if that really if he's saying we really will see that or we already do see that. I actually don't know. Wagyu is like a special type of beef, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe the point is if you call it Wagyu style, it's not quite the same. And if that name isn't protected from any use, like I don't think you can say Parmesan Reggiano style cheese.
Right.
You can't even print that name on your thing. But this way of saying style would be a way of getting around these things.
Apparently, it does already exist. So
what is GTFO? I mean, I know what that stands for. Is that a?
Yeah, I don't know. I know what it stands for, but maybe that's a website or something. I don't know.
Okay, good. Interesting show today. Any closing final thoughts, Doug? You haven't done one of those in a while. You've done some downward facing Dougs, but I don't think you have anything to be down about today.
I got nothing to be down about. This is all positive news. I think I'm excited. Here's my closing thought.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to Walmart because I feel like I don't know why I'm championing Walmart today. Okay. I'm not really a Walmart guy or a fan, but I don't know. I think that it's a big deal when we start seeing these products in Walmart, whether they're fully healthy or not. I think it's just it's a good thing. So I'm gonna go to Walmart and I'm gonna support them by buying some of these plant meats. Not support Walmart, support the Walmart having those plant meats or those.
Okay. Right.
Important distinction. Although I guess I am supporting Walmart.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, different issue altogether, perhaps. But you also be supporting the show if you get those Beyond Meat steak tips and you put them in one of your burritos or quesadillas or what. Man, that'd be good in your quesadillas, I think. Nah, maybe not with the refried beans. You're not using vegan cheese.
Oh, Mr. Jeffrey, he said that Walmart has Not Burger. He said that earlier, and I gotta try those too because I've never had those either.
Yeah, I didn't get into the Not Burger stuff, which was that with the Kraft Heinz companies doing or partnering with. The Not stuff, it looks strange. We'll talk about that another day. But the labels where it looks like milk and it says Not Milk or Not Burger or Not.
That's the point.
Whatever.
I like it.
I know, but cool. It almost seems too frankenfoodish to me. Where like they, I don't know. I've known it. Another issue for another day. But apparently their stuff's good. People are saying it's good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please go ahead and do that. You can leave us a rating on in iTunes or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be back here tomorrow. We have a guest coming in, I think. So it should be a fun show.
All right. Sounds good. Until then, enjoy your hump day.
See ya.